We now examine a curious operator. It's known as a conditional operator, which you can actually see is two characters, two symbols, the question mark and the semicolon. Now, I better show you how to think of that and how it looks like. First of all, you think of it as a little mini if-else statement, which kind of looks like this. You put some kind of condition, the same kind of condition as you would put inside the brackets of an if statement, only you don't need the brackets. Then you put the question mark, then you put one expression, then you put the other expression. Two expressions. Now, you can think of them as the true part and the false part. And the entire line of code, condition, question mark, expression, colon, expression, evaluates to one value. That value will either be the value of the true part, or it will be the value of the false part, depending on whether the condition is true or not. So I guess it's probably getting a little bit confusing here, so I'll give you an example. Here's an example. Let's say you have two numbers x and y, and you wish to determine what the maximum is. Well, it's pretty easy to do that using an if statement. You say if x is greater than y, and then in the first line of code underneath that you'd put max equals x, and then you have an else, and then you say max equals y. Here, well, that's 4 lines of code. It's actually only one big statement, but it's 4 lines of code. Here, you can just say max equals, and then you can put the condition. The x is greater than y. That's the conditional part. That evaluates to true or false. Now, if x is greater than y, then obviously x is the maximum. So if that if that condition is true, then the value of max should be set to x. If that condition is false, then the statement of the value of max should be set to y. So that entire expression from the first x to the last y evaluates to either x or y, depending on whether x is greater than y or not. Maybe it's still not clear. Okay, let's have a look at another example. You want to print out somebody's gender. They're either male or female. So you've got a variable called gender. You see that on that line there, gender, which is a Boolean. It's either set to 1 or it's set to 0. And if it's set to 1, in other words, it's set to true, then the person's gender is considered to be male. If it's set to 0, the gender is considered to be female. And the value of gender is false. So you wish to print out either male or female. Now you could put an if statement. You could say if gender, in other words, if gender equals true, but if gender, then the next line could be printf male, and then you could have the next line else, and then you could have printf female. Or you could do it in all one line. You could print out the following. Okay, that's what it looks like. You see how it's working here? The very first thing is you do, you evaluate gender flag, and then depending on if gender is true, then male will get put into the %s, and if gender is false, then female will get put into the %s. Can you see how that's working? I know it's a confusing one. Let's go and have a look at a bit of code. Hopefully that'll make it look a little clearer. This is conditional.c in the Chapter 8 folder. Okay. What I want to do is I want to have two numbers, both read in from the keyboard, and then I want to divide the second number into the first number and get a result. Now that's pretty easy. Let's try it. Dum-de-dum-de-dum. Okay, answer equals num1 divided by num2. Okay, that's pretty straightforward. Now the printf at the end, I want to determine whether that is odd or even. Odd or even. Okay, so how do we determine if a number is odd or even? Can you remember? It's that old modulo thing. If a number modulo 2 is 0, that means that the number divided by 2 has a remainder of 0. In other words, the number is even. So let's try that. We could do the code like this. Let me do the magic of fast coding and I'll show you what I'm talking about. Hang on a sec. Bingo. We've changed. Okay, so let's have a look at this printf line now. That'll be the first number divided by the second number is, and then I don't finish the line. I let one of these two statements here finish the line. It's either going to be even or it's going to be odd. So I say if the answer modulo 2 is 0, then it's even. Otherwise it's odd. Okay, now that works. If you don't believe me, let's try and compile it and test it. Okay, first number 12 divided by 4 is going to be 3, which is odd. So that is odd, that's good. Okay, I'm not going to worry about fractions here. You know, obviously 7 divided by 6 is going to be 1. Exactly 1, because this is integer division. Okay, let me just get rid of that compiler output. Okay. Now I'm going to rewrite this code, and this time I'm going to use a conditional operator. So obviously this is the condition right here. So what I would typically do is I'd get rid of the actual if and the brackets, then I'd put a question mark, and then something, and then a colon, and then something, and then a semicolon. So we've got to figure out what goes in here and what goes in here. Now obviously we've got to printf there. Now I could just cut that and put it there, and I could cut this one and put it there. Now that, let's get rid of this other bump. Okay, good. Now that will actually compile and run. So let's try it. Compile, 0 errors, run, 12 divided by 4 is odd again, and oh my goodness, it's still working. Good. But I can still really combine these two. I don't want to have one printf statement here and then either one of these two printf statements. I'd like to do it all in one big printf statement. So let's kill the end of that one, add another variable. Let's put this on an extra line just to make it clearer. And I'm going to join the two lines together. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a %s here and a new line, and then get rid of everything except the actual text. Okay, can you see what I've done? We've still got the same condition. Is answer even or odd? Now, if that's 0, then that must be even. So that even there gets printed out for that %s. Otherwise, you can think of that as an else or an otherwise, that little colon there. Then we get odd. And odd gets stuck into that %s there. So let's try that. No errors. Good, that's a good start. Run. 12 divided by 4 is odd. Well, let's try 3 this time, and this should be even. 12 divided by 3 is even. Okay. Let's, okay, that's good, it's working. Let's now make this a little bit more bulletproof. Bulletproof, I mean robust. This has got a bug in it. It does have a bug in it, believe it or not. What happens if you enter 0 for the second number? I don't want to even try and do that. If you want to try this at home, you will probably crash a program, because something divided by 0 is undefined. There's no such thing as dividing by 0. So, let's try and see if we can figure out what to do here. First of all, I don't want to even do the division. I don't want to do the division if num2 is 0. So I've still got to put something into answer. Let's say some kind of negative number. How about -1? So here's how it's going to work. Answer will be just the normal result of the division, unless num2 is 0. Now if num2 is 0, then we're going to set answer to be -1. That's going to be a special case. Answer will be -1. Okay, so let's see how that looks. So first of all, I want to put a condition here, right where the cursor is flashing. I want to put the condition of is num2 0? Well, let's find out. Num2 equals 0. Now, if that is the case, if that is true, then we want the value of -1. Otherwise, we're quite happy to let the division happen. You see how that's working? If num2 is 0, then that statement is true, then we want the answer to be -1. Otherwise, we want the answer to be that. Okay. So now, down here, we want to add a third case, the undefined case. So it's either odd, or it's even, or it's undefined. You can see this is going to look really, really tricky in a second. I'm doing this deliberately. I want to show you a complex example so that if you can understand this bit of code, you'll just get it completely with the conditional operator. So, the first thing we need to do is test whether answer equals -1. So let's do that. Answer equals -1. And if that is, let's just give ourselves a bit of room to play with. If that is true, if answer is -1, then the answer is undefined. Okay, that is the word that we want to print out. Now, if it's not -1, in other words, otherwise, a little colon there, meaning else or otherwise, then, well, then we can just do this. That's perfectly fine then. We can do a second conditional statement inside the first conditional statement. Ooh, did you follow that? Let's try and put it all on one line. Okay, sorry, I'm going a little bit too fast for myself here. I just want to get it all on one line so you can see it. There we go. First, well, okay, sorry. Okay, that's a little neater. Okay, so there's the two numbers, and now, here we go. First question is answer -1? That's the question. And if it is, then print out undefined. Otherwise, evaluate all of this. Now, all of this evaluates, as we've seen before, it either evaluates to even or odd, depending on whether answer is divided by modulo 2 is 0 or not. So I know that looks very complicated because we've got a question mark followed by a colon, followed by another question mark, followed by another colon. But when you think about it, all of this whole highlighted bit here, is just part of the false condition. It's part of the else clause, or the otherwise bit, whatever you want to call it. And it just happens that this particular expression is a conditional expression as well. Okay, so let's just test if it actually works. No errors. Okay, so the compiler liked it. You might not have liked it, but the compiler had no trouble with it whatsoever. And we'll run it. And 12 divided by 3 is even. It is, because the answer is 4. Let's try it again. 12 divided by 4 is odd, because it's 3, so 3 is odd. Good. Let's try now the magical condition. 12 divided by 0 is undefined. Isn't that nice? So we get all three conditions coming out. Okay, so that's the conditional operator. Please study this code carefully if you don't fully understand it.